Thanks very much for tuning back in to the Crown of Command channel. And today we have Dr. Spork back once again to go over one of these marvellous publications, Fantasy Miniatures, Citadel Miniatures, and it's all about the Golden Demon entries of the 1990s this time. Good to have you back again, Callum.
Yep, thank you. I'm back again to pretend I know what I'm talking about, as usual. Yeah, as you say, this is the 1990 Golden Demon Awards, and they actually went back to holding them separately from Games Day, because apparently in 1989 they were surprised about the level of attendance, and the Derby assembly rooms were a bit swamped with people. So they decided to split them back up again. So this was held in the spring, and I think the Games Day was held in the autumn. Although actually it seems there was still plenty to do on the day. Similar kind of bevy of games and things that you could have a go with. An interesting one to note was Battlefleet Gothic with Richard Helliwell, not to be confused with Richard Halliwell. But as Battlefleet Gothic itself wasn't released for a decade after this, I suspect it was probably Space Fleet going under its working title, which I think was Battlefleet Gothic back then. And I think I know where we would be on the day. I had a look through, and how does a game of Space Marine with Jervis Johnson and the newly arrived Andy Chambers sound? Does that sound fun?
Oh, mate, that sounds absolutely brilliant to me. Yeah, I'll be there.
It'd be really interesting to see Andy Chambers, who would have only been working there a month when he was doing this, the start of his Games Workshop career. Although they also had live roleplay laser tag, which sounds excellent. They could dress up as an Imperial Guardsman and run around shooting people.
And you can listen to Andy's story about that, about his time at Games Workshop, how he actually landed a job there in the games development side of things on the Crown of Command podcast, which is probably I think it's the most highly listened to and downloaded podcast I've ever done. So it was a great chance to meet with Andy, and I was very nervous about that interview, but it all went really well. And he talks all about it when Jervis Johnson goes on holiday, or he took a sabbatical or something, and then Andy joined the studio, and then the rest is history, as they say. And yeah, his passion is for epic Space Marines, so it was a perfect fit, really, between him and Jervis.
Very jealous you got to chat with him. I'm not sure how I'd react if I see him. It's like as a like in my youth, it was kind of like my hero in White Dwarf. I think it was the one that I always remembered. So I always remember those pictures with the beard and the hair and the funny faces and things like that.
Yep, absolutely.
So and once again, Golden Demon was held alongside the Marauder Blade competition, but also this year they introduced the Youngbloods for under 15s. And some under 15 got to walk home with the Youngbloods axe, which was a full-size axe.
Brilliant.
I'm not sure how my parents would have felt if I'd turned up from a painting competition with an axe. So, as with the previous year, the winner this year is picking up £150 worth of GW vouchers, and this month saw the release of the Epic Imperial Guard Army box set. So how many of those box sets do you think you could get with £150, Josh?
15?
Ooh, not too far off. It was £7.99. So if they were willing to add another £1.81 of their own money, they could have got 19, which would give them a total of 5,700 epic scale Imperial Guard infantry pockets.
Okay,
which I suspect they would still be painting to this day.
Absolutely.
And right from these first pages, you can start to sense a bit of a change. This is bright colours, green bases, clean paintwork. You know, do you not feel like maybe the red era is starting to seep in now?
Mm-hmm.
You can start to
see more goblin green bases, or not even goblin green, actually, are they? They're more of a woodland green, I think, at that stage.
Yeah, but it's that kind of flat sand base as well. It's both of those combined as very moving into the 90s. And as before, these first few pages once again show the beautiful work of the studio staff. In this case, it is Mike McVeigh, Ivan Bartley, Dale Hurst, and Tim Prow, who a lot of people may know these days from Die Hard Miniatures. Still does excellent sculpting work out there. I want to mention particularly Ivan's wonderful little Chaos Spawn conversions. There's like a hand on the body of a snake, and that godforsaken, bug-eyed, frog-looking fella at the bottom of the page. Imagine dedicating yourself to chaos, and that's what they reward you with. But they're just really great, creative, little, simple conversions that I really like. I also really like Dale Hurst's Goth Rhino conversion. It's really simple and really cleanly done. Yeah. It's not a complicated conversion, but it makes for a really striking but subtle model. And I think a lot of people recognize it because I'm pretty sure it was featured, if not in White Dwarf, in other publications. Might even been in the second edition 40k rulebook. I'm not sure. It's that kind of things. I've definitely seen it lots before. But yeah, it's really, really nice, really simple thing.
You can see a very young Tim Prow here, also a guest on the Crown of Command podcast. I'm very proud to say it was great to catch up with Tim and talk about his legacy at Games Workshop and working the studio and working along with Mike. But again, I think a person who sort of followed in Mike's style and excelled at it. Another really, really exceptional painter.
No, I definitely agree. The stuff that he produces it's Die Hard Miniatures, isn't it?
Die Hard Miniatures. Yeah, that's the one.
The stuff that he sculpts is really nice. If you like kind of the slightly older, like that kind of 90s aesthetic as well, I think he really he channels that quite nicely. So yeah, if you're interested in that kind of thing, check him out. Here we have the previous Slayer Sword winners, and this is actually our first chance to see the 1987 winner, which is with Brian Moore's twin-headed dragon, which I really like. But it also shows the way the level of quality and of talent has moved forward in just 3 or 4 years, because that I don't think would even be in the winner's end of this book. It's a nice model, but between that 87 and 1990, it's just gone up and up and up and up and up. And I think this really shows it. And yeah, as we start to look at the actual entries for the 1991, you can see that advance in quality. These aren't the winners, but they're all really nicely painted. A particular favorite of mine is Stephen Osborne's Terminator, the kind of blue Terminator up at the top of the page. It's got really clean color scheme, really beautiful blending on the armor. It leaves really kind of striking model on that page, always kind of jumps out at me. And here we are in the mounted miniatures, which, as you might remember from last year, are always a bit of fun. Do you know, and does anyone else out there know where I can find the rules for an epic Warden Knight being ridden by a 28mm skeleton with helicopter blades coming out the top of its skull? Because I just don't know where to start finding that.
In some drug-fueled head of someone in the 90s, mate, I think. Yeah, some good stuff. I told you, good stuff you can get off the street there in those days. And here's evidence of it. Here's what it's produced.
Yeah, and if we can't find the rules for that, maybe we can find them for a chainsaw-wielding goblin on a tiny red dragon, because I could add one of those to my Orc and Goblin army. That would be nice. So, Josh, have you ever wondered what to do with all those spare bases you've got, like, rattling around at the bottom of your bits box? Because, if you want to use them... You could take a leaf out of Alex Copeland's book and use them to make the base for an entire vignette. If you look at that, we've got square bases, round bases, flight bases, all just piled up, creating most of that scene.
I was going to say, that's a really nice banner. He put together a banner that's really, really good. And it's just a shame that everything else kind of is not that impressive. But yeah, the banner is amazing on it.
Yeah, no, it is really good. What I find interesting though is he's got all those flight bases stacked up and painted up, but he looks like he's used some kind of half plastic tube to actually support the bike. Did he just accidentally use all his flight bases and then go, "Oh no, what am I going to put the bike on?" There are a couple of vignettes that I love on these pages here as well. There is D Wood's take on Dave Gallagher's iconic painting that graced the front of the Space Marine paint sets, and also the front of this book.
I was going to say the front of this book. Yeah, brilliant.
That kind of thing is right up my street.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I did anything back in the day, but certainly I haven't done anything recently. But I love the idea of taking a bit of artwork, like, you know, the front of the second edition starter set or something like that, and just trying to create that bit of it as a little vignette. I like that idea. So this one really appeals to me, and it's been really nicely done. But my actual favorite on this page is John James's Fallen Comrades with the Eldar Dreadnought that has been beautifully reposed to really convey the emotion as it's mourning its fallen comrade. I also I don't know I can't remember exactly what the lore was for Eldar Dreadnoughts back then, if they were meant to be, you know, the spirits of dead Eldar. But I like the idea of the dead mourning the dead in that vignette as well. It's just a nice little scene and idea, but I don't know if they'd actually written that bit of the lore like that as yet, or if it was still just meant to be someone in there, because I think that it kind of got changed around a bit. My favorite category, standard bearers, and it does not disappoint. Jason Cartwright's Ogre standard bearer is mind-blowing. The ogre, the shields, the banner, the whole thing feels like those graphic novels that I used to read when I was too young to be reading them, that are like kind of really kind of viscerally crazy and just seared themselves into my young brain because of that. It's a really, like, the banner itself is just gorgeous. Guy should be doing comic books. Might well be. I don't know. But, you know, it's really great.
It's amazing, isn't it?
I just want to quickly query if you know what that Space Marine just to the left of it is equipped with. To me, it looks like some kind of over-engineered space leaf blower. You know, maybe,
it's like a whippersnapper.
There was some, maybe there were some particularly vicious leaves in the 41st millennium. We had the Titans, which this year they had a bit more time, because I think last year they had less than 6 months to sort themselves out. And it really shows they've upped their game. I particularly like Bradwell's little Warden Knight there on the most ridiculous tactical rock I've ever seen. It looks like he's worried about how he's going to get down from there. Stephen Joy's Eldar Phantom Titan, I think you can probably spot it. It is just eye-poppingly gorgeous in so many ways. I love the conversion work he's done. I love the reposing that he's done, and the absolutely drippingly vibrant colors. This one did nearly make my top 3. It just calls to me from the page. It just, amazing. And the epic scale vignettes are actually a surprise source of immense creativity, possibly rivaling kind of the banners for me. What do you think? I get the impression Christopher Orr might be a Pink Floyd fan. Just subtle hint somewhere.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a really interesting little setup, and fun and absurd. But also Paul Wonacott's skyscraper battle there is one of these entries where you see more every time you look at it. It is so packed. There's little guys in there. There's stuff happening on the roof. There's stuff happening around the bottom. There's a little mole, you know, the little kind of burrowing thing, like the one from Thunderbirds. There's one popping up, kind of hidden away in the base. There's all sorts of little bits and pieces hiding in there. I love those kind of entries where you can just pore over them for ages. And the vehicles category this year is very much dominated by Land Raider conversions. And there are some absolute crackers in there. You see Paul Brassington's kind of very 80s sci-fi. It looks like it's out of the Alien movies. It's got all that kind of lots of detailing on it, but it's very clean. I don't know. There's something kind of quite clean and sleek about it as a conversion. I think he's got the proportions really right, so it looks just right. But yeah, I like that one. But my favourite of the Land Raider conversions is Ben Satterthwaite's prototype Lehman Russ, the kind of grey one down at the bottom. It has a real presence to it, and it feels like an actual 40k tank more than a lot of the other Land Raider conversions do. I think because a lot of the other ones have included like scale kits or bits of toys and things like that, so they've got a lot of that 80s sci-fi kind of bleeding into them, which I don't feel was actually that present in the 40k kind of style. Whereas that one looks like it's part of that kind of slightly backwards future kind of thing. I really like that one. It's not necessarily the craziest conversion, but it really kind of has presence and looks right. If you know what I mean.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yep.
And here is the winner, David Soper, someone I know you're familiar with from the last video.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and that Nurgle Predator is quite an impressive piece of work. It's all pale and sickly, and the pallor, it's fantastic. And nearly every surface is just disgusting. There are a couple of patches of the armor which I really like, where it's like the armor has become like kind of rotten flesh and is kind of like coming away in that kind of rotten fleshy way and leaving these kind of big dark red patches underneath. And that's a style, that's a kind of a technique I'm going to have to try myself if I'm ever doing a Nurgle tank or dreadnought or something. And also, if you can see, but at the bottom of the flagpoles, they're sort of like dripping onto the top of the tank, and it's a really like kind of unsettling kind of thing that he's done with it. Anyway, it's a really original thing to do. I can see why he won. The banners as well, I think those might be hand sculpted. I'm not 100% sure. I don't recognize them from anywhere. It's all apparently the little Nurgling on the back is scratch sculpted himself as well.
Oh, right.
So he's obviously put a lot of time just sculpting all the extra bits onto this, and it really shows. So I'm not surprised that he won the Slayer sword this year.
And so young. Look at him. It's disgusting. How can someone so young be so good? But yeah, he's still around today. I hope he gets to watch this video because I'm a big fan of Dave's work. I think he's an incredible painter. Now, I'm really happy to see that Chimera in a much better photograph this time. I think that was one of my winning entries in the last video we did together.
That was your favorite, yeah.
That was my favorite. But yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant. And it's got a nice angle here where you can see all the freehand sort of markings on the back hind leg of that that ram there and everything, leopard skin. Yeah, it's just brilliant. Yeah, he's got an incredible style, and he's still doing it today. He's been painting professionally for years now, for commissions and stuff like that. He's on Instagram, so I'll try to find his Instagram link and I'll drop it in the show notes of this video. So if you want to go and check out Dave's work, you can do it, and you can see he does a lot of Nurgle stuff. And I think that's probably what his clients are mainly asking for him, because he's just a master of it. Yeah, he's really talented.
Yeah. He's really good. So, Josh, do you remember that tarantula skin? God.
How could I forget?
That had been used to make, I think it was Marnia's Calgar's pet spider. Well, animal parts are back. With courtesy of Stephen Mussered on his on top of his really quite, it's quite an impressive model. I think it's a lamb skull. I'm not 100% sure. I'm not an expert on these things, but looking at the size of it and the shape of it, I think it's a lamb skull. But it makes for a really imposing chaos tank. Yeah, I quite like that. Another one I really like is this first place epic scale vignette by John James. It's a really interesting little diorama that uses a 28mm dreadnought model puppeteering its epic scale counterpart, like a little epic scale one. But what really kind of draws me in with this one is the fact that the larger of the two, the puppeteer, is sort of fleshy and corrupted and twisted. Whereas the smaller one isn't, and it creates a scene that sort of leaves me wondering about the deeper meaning behind it. Is this about chaos, corruption, or what have you? There's obviously something that is going on there, and I find it really interesting when people are able to do things like that make you start wondering about that with miniatures.
Yeah.
And I would like to finish up with the first place standard bearer, of course, being me, which is this wonderful Gene Stealer corrupted Terminator by David Knowles. I do wish it hadn't been gloss varnished, because I know it was much more of the style at the time to gloss varnish everything, but the light reflecting on the banner makes it it obscures it a little bit, but it looks like a cracking, absolutely cracking banner.
Yep.
But what really draws me in this is actually all the little freehand detailing on all the armor.
Yeah.
It's absolutely stunning. It's absurdly intricate. And it's one of those miniatures that I'd just like to have on my shelf so I can just stare at it myself and find all these extra little details that have been absolutely covered. It has been absolutely covered in all these details. It's great.
Yeah. Doing a Mike McVeigh. Unbelievable, mate.
Yeah. Well, here we are. This is just one. This is pure nostalgia from me, because I remember these and I just love the color scheme on the swooping hawks that Mike McVeigh painted. But then in the bottom right there, that turquoise, grey, yellow color scheme. I really, really like it. It's so clean, so beautifully painted. It's simple, it's effective, it's striking. And yeah, it sings of what is to come as well, as we talked about at the start of this video. That is, the future is coming, and it looks like that, with a bit more red on it, probably, to be fair. But in 4 years' time, paint the gun red, we're done. Yeah.
Okay, well, actually, it came third place, and this is my third place choice here as well, by Stephen Osborne. It's a Reaver Titan, which I absolutely love. I love that particular Titan. I think I chose that for the first book we did as well.
Well, I think it was the last book, yeah.
The last book, was it?
They weren't out in 87 and 88. So
right. Okay.
Yeah, no, I remember you picking one for 89.
Right. Well, this one is just, it's just a really eye-catching, very striking looking paint scheme, and like technically really well done. So it's like a what are those guys called with all the bones in their armor?
The Legion of the Damned.
That's it, the Legion of the Damned. Yeah. So if Legion of the Damned had a Titan, this would be it. And I think it's just really well executed. I do remember seeing this photographed in, I think it might have, obviously for the Golden Demon, it may have been in a White Dwarf magazine as well. But yeah, it just really caught my eye, and I thought, the base as well, that red, that sort of magna red, where it's just very different, and it really offsets the black and bone on the model itself. Really nice banners as well, very subtle, just nice and simple. But yeah, overall, I think it's my third place for 1990, mate.
And luckily, we don't need to go far for my second place.
Good.
Because my second place is Contemplation by Daniel Clift, which is right next to it. It is a second place epic scale vignette.
Wow. Okay.
I really like this. It's hard to figure out why. I'm always really drawn to it. Apparently, he has converted those two epic space marines. The little detailing, I don't know if you can quite see it, but there's this little kind of Greek style pattern that he's painted around the edge of the cloak, which that's a 6 millimeter high guy. He's painted like a
Yeah.
less than 1 millimeter high
Huh.
pattern around the bottom of that cloak. I also just really like the
Craziness.
scene.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's not uncluttered, but it's, dare I say it, it's got this like epic vision to it where you're staring out into space, into all those stars. And I like that kind of thing. And yeah, you might remember Daniel Clift. We talked about him on the last video. He did that tiny bike.
And my second place will be Mark Gibbons. Now, Mark Gibbons is the famous artist that decorated the pages of many Games Workshop publications over the 90s. And I don't know if he was employed by Games Workshop at this time, but he is also an excellent painter. And I really loved his take on this Great Unclean One. So it actually claimed first place for the monster category. But yeah, it's a really nice looking Unclean One, if you can call it nice, nice and clean. But yeah, it's just a really interesting color scheme because usually you see them all green, and he's chosen a really light, like ochre color, almost,
Yeah.
or bone color for the skin, and then chosen really nice greens and oranges in there and blacks and purples and to offset all of that. And I think it's a really well done, really nice base and everything. So yeah, that's my second place, mate.
I know the way he's got some really nice contrast to the colors there as well in terms of the kind of lights and the
Yeah,
darks. You can sort of tell he's an illustrator because he's used to having
yeah,
to do all that on a flat surface. It is
yeah,
really nice. Like it just the like if you just look into like close up at the belly and all of the holes and the little bits crawling around and coming out, and also with the kind of, as you say, that kind of bony, pallid flesh color that he's got going on. It's, yeah, I can
mm.
see exactly why you like that. It's a real cracker. Okay, now my first place is Inquisitors in the Warp, and unfortunately, I think someone might have lost a note of who did a lot of these entries because there are a lot of the entries in this book that do not have a name next to them.
Right. Yeah.
And I looked and looked, and I can't find who did this entry. So if anyone knows, please put a note in the comments because I'd love to know who entered this one. It's just incredible, you know, that red face, like a, I don't know what it is. It's like skin scratched over a wall, but the wall also looks like it's half alive, and you've got these really interesting, intricate little inquisitor figures that are all very individual as well. Lovely kind of bright colors, but and the base itself is absolutely gorgeously made. You know, it's like a
Mm.
movie set. Is a really, really nicely done. But just that square of red on the background is like a fantastic work of terrifying art just in itself.
Yeah.
Absolutely stunning. The colors, the shapes, the I really, really like it. I didn't even have to think about first place. Quite a lot when we did the previous ones. My top three swapped around a few times. Soon as I knew we were doing this book, I knew immediately that one, first place, way above all the others. How it didn't end up in the winners category, I have no idea. If I ever meet Mike McVeigh, I'm very sorry, Mike. I am going to berate you because you were one of the judges. Why wasn't that awarded a prize? It's the
Well,
best.
they
Who
didn't know
did it
that
as well? Why don't you tell me
they
who did it?
they don't know the person's name who entered it, so that's probably one of the
Yeah.
reasons. Maybe they just buggered off. They just dropped it in and buggered off, basically.
Well,
Maybe he was an
it's
inquisitor
gorgeous.
himself. Yeah, no, it's actually when you were flipping through the pages, and I know we didn't cover this, but when I saw it, I thought I'm sure Callum's going to choose this one because it seemed
Yeah.
right up your alley, mate. So
Yeah, no, it's
yeah, and I
glorious.
was right. Okay, I'm going to have to I'm going to have to choose War Wing Champion of Tzinch. I think it's just an iconic piece. of that time. I think maybe for Mike, I think that and the War Dancer conversion on the giant eagle are two pieces
Yeah.
that Mike did that really stick out to me, that define that era, and I think really propel him up into the top echelon of painters, and if not the best painter in the world at that stage. So, I mean, there's some great painters out there. Don't get me wrong, but I think Mike really cemented that brand of style and color, the color that he could produce, and the conversions he made. They're some of the best out there. And yeah, I think that for me, that sort of quantifies what I think of 90s when I first entered the hobby, and looking through catalogs and different publications for White Dwarf. Yeah, these images really stick out to me to think, wow, if only I could paint as half as good, a tenth of 1% of what Mike could do, I'd be so happy. And yeah, so that's my first place for 1990, mate. So well done, Mike.
Yeah, no, he's managed to get two in the
Yeah.
two in our top threes. We'll need to send him a little prize. Congratulations. No, well, the good news for you, Josh, is I think you certainly do have at least a tenth of Mike McVeigh's talent these days, if not
Maybe a
actually quite
tenth,
a bit
maybe a
more.
tenth.
No, you do some wonderful work, and you definitely can certainly get his kind of level of color.
And Darren Matthews commented on the last video, and Darren Matthews is Chaos Warrior down the bottom of that page there, at the bottom corner there, mate. He painted that.
Mm.
So it was really nice to have someone that was part of this era, that was part of the heavy metal team, contributing to the video, and they just really appreciated us covering the book. And so thanks to you, Doctor Spork, for doing that, mate. So you brought
Thanks
one
for
out
having me on.
of you brought one of the guys from way back then on to see the video and to comment on it, which is lovely.
I'm glad they enjoyed it. I tried to, well, yeah, I was going to say I tried to be respectful, but it's actually I don't need to really try because there's so much great stuff in them, and I just love them. So
Yeah.
it's quite easy to just rant and ramble for far too long about them, as I'm sure you're aware.
All right, my friend. Well, it was really great to cover these three fantastic volumes of Citadel Miniature and Golden Demon history with you, and I look forward to covering some other publications in the near future with you. All right,
Yeah,
mate.
no,
So
look forward to it. Thank you very much.
until then, enjoy your summer holidays, and we'll probably catch you when it's not so humid and hot, and when we're drinking cups of tea and enjoying bickies or something like that, maybe over a lovely publication from yesteryear. Until then, my friend, take care.
Take care.